Grazie Jim, è un piacere, grazie mille. È un vero piacere essere qui con voi oggi. Questo club è veramente fantastico e non vedo l'ora di parlarvi di intelligenza artificiale. All right. So a few years from now, you're going to have something attached to your neck and it will speak any language you want. This is what's happening these days. So my name is ULJAN SHARKA. I'm the founder and CEO at iGenius. I have been building AI together with my team for the past 7 years. And today I would like to share some insights with you. There is a lot going on these days, a lot to be worried about, but a lot of opportunity as well. So we started back in 2016. Before that, I was at Apple, and we were shipping a lot of iPhones and iPads, and I was meeting with executives, and they were saying, "Julian, I go home and I speak with my coffee machine, and after buying your expensive devices, I still need to deal with very complex software. What is happening? In the B2C space, everyone is having these amazing experiences, but in the workplace, things are not that good, right?" So AI is going to change that. And the reason why AI is going to change that is not just because someone decided it. It's because we have reached an inflection point as a society. So there is a consortium that is monitoring the impact of bad quality of software and bad quality of data. And they estimated that in 2022 alone, the United States had a loss of $2 trillion in productivity because of the bad quality of data and bad quality of software. That's a huge problem to solve. I mean, this is a rationale. If we want to talk about other things, let's talk about our nature as human beings, where, we have always wanted to do things. We have always wanted to build tools that can help us elevate ourselves. And we have built so many tools over the past 20 years, but look at your phone. Over the past 5 years, it's the same, right? So when I mean an inflection point, is that, we need change. And this is the primary reason why AI is becoming huge today, because we got to an inflection point where everything that we have built reached a limit, and you know how it goes, We want to build tools that enable us to achieve goals, greatness beyond our dreams. So when you think of AI, the first use case is actually going to be solving that $2 trillion productivity problem and challenge that just the United States has. Imagine worldwide. So this means actually using this powerful technology to empower and to solve that last mile that within every tool that we have built over the past, I would say, 50+ years, both in your industry but also in other industries such as industrials or retail, where you can actually now have this magic technology that can augment everything that was built in the past by 5x, 10x, within weeks or months. That sounds great, right? So you'd say we're going to have a lot of gains from AI, but a lot of people are worried because it is going to remove jobs, and it's a threat to humanity. If you think about fake news, just a couple of nice articles, are changing political views for entire communities out there. Think of the entire world's knowledge being in one of these models, embedded in everybody's life and experience, and that model, is going to change the way you consume every service in your private life or workplace, and at some point, you can have these models actually causing World War III, because they can literally manipulate people. If 2 articles can do it, imagine what 1 billion people reading information from a model that progressively manipulates them can do. So I wanted to leave you with some takeaways and make this a conversation. I'm sure you have a lot of questions and would be very happy to answer those, considering the experience I've had with building generative AI over the past 7 years. But before getting there, wanted to share some more insights. So we said the first use case is going to be actually augmenting everything that exists. So if you put that into the perspective of your daily job, for example, the first thing is going to be saving time. So one of the most exciting things of artificial intelligence is the revolution of the interface. It's humans actually being enabled to talk to machines. We have dreamed this for a while, right? So we built great movies about it. We have imagined this every time we adopted new technology. Well, now it's here. It's real. We can talk with machines, and we can have like a real conversation. It's not like that experience when you get in the car trying to call someone, and it always fails, right? So this is the first gain. Of course, a lot of people are manipulating this, and telling great stories that this is going to turn into Terminators, getting all over the planet and taking jobs and all of that. But I will tell you this. If you think of Gen AI as a magical technology, it's difficult to think of what shape it has. I will simplify it so that you can understand how, I would say, not dangerous it is. So a Gen AI model is a bunch of data which is being actually saved into a file. So it is the simplest architecture of software that you can think of. We had much more sophisticated and complex, I would say, architectures when we built traditional software, which was less, intelligent, of course. But this is very, very straightforward. So you get a bunch of data, you train it to emulate our brain somehow by layering, that information into infinite vectors into this file. So this file cannot change the world, This file cannot actually become danger for everyone. It's who's using it that potentially can. So when you think of your industry again, you're going to save a lot of time because you're going to be able to talk with your devices, you're going to be able to talk with assets, you're going to be able to have a conversation with, the data. We have been talking data for more than 20 years now. Data is the new gold, data is going to change everything. Well, now finally we can monetize data. So I think this is going to be the most impactful use case. And the way this is going to impact the industries, it's not, it's not something that is going to happen only on those companies that have data, because data and the user interface will become actually the entry point to any service in the world, to every industry in the world. So if I was you, I would actually look at my portfolio today or any asset I have, and I would backwards build, data about the companies that I hold and see how these companies are going to be disrupted by the innovation of the user experience and the user interface. Because even, industrial companies that today build pipes, well, we're going to have pipes with an interface, and we're going to have people talking to pipes soon, right? And those pipes are going to be much more convenient and smarter and interesting to sell than other pipes. I'm just simplifying to the point where, this will get. And of course, this is the moment to plant seeds for the next trillion-dollar companies. It is happening now. Together with my team, we get early up in the morning and we go very late to sleep in the evening because there is so much opportunity where you can apply this technology that it's very difficult to decide where to start with. At iGenius, we decided to bring an example of how we applied it. We looked at numbers. You have a lot of numbers. You crunch numbers every day. And we thought that there has to be a better experience to consume numbers. So we built a product which is called Crystal. We're building it since 2016. And Crystal makes data human. So you can think of it like the ChatGPT, but for numbers, that brings two unique perspectives. The first one is that you can own your data. So each and every customer gets their own model, isolated from the rest of the world, and that becomes their own private brain. So that you can actually own it. The reason why it is important to own these models is that this is the first technology that is merging with IP. This is not using IP. This is not making IP accessible. It becomes IP. So you cannot delegate this to iGenius or whatever model company out there. You need to own it, and then potentially you can augment it with, architectures that leverage other models as well. I mean, the perfect world would be where everyone owns their own virtual brain, And these brains at some point interconnect to create a larger distributed, fair system where everyone can be a consumer but also can be a producer. And this is how we think of these models. We don't do it better than companies that are worth 40 billion today or 80 billion. We just do it different because we think, this is the most responsible way to do it. And we aim to build a company for generations to come. The second thing that we bring in differently from these models is that we certify knowledge. We believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, when these models are going to be democratized and embedded everywhere, the most difficult challenge that we're going to have to solve is certify knowledge. Because these models make things up, And when you have people that are not technical and are not able to judge that information, well, they're going to make decisions with that information. So it's absolutely important that we actually make these models safe. And by safe, I don't mean having 99.9% confidence rates. It's not acceptable. Imagine 5 minutes before meeting with a customer, with a client, with a partner, or internal meeting, you're about to make an important decision. Maybe you're going to wire a lot of money out of that decision, and you got the wrong number. That's not acceptable, right? So this is just an example of how these models can be applied, starting from the human need, the human experience, the business experience, and not necessarily starting from the technology itself. These days, we're talking a lot about the technology, how many parameters, these models have, how big they are, what potentially they can do in 20 years from now. But the future is today. And today, we can help humans to do better work, to elevate themselves. And I think the opportunity for every professional on the planet right now is not to be replaced and go on vacation. I mean, that would be nice, don't get me wrong. But it's to actually amplify their expertise and amplify their impact. This is the opportunity that, I would recommend to look into for the next 3 to 5 years. And understand how these things work. Because they're going to be, it happened with the .io in data race where everyone was talking data, and we have these huge siloed, databases that no one is using these days that is costing hundreds of billions of dollars in cost to organizations and trillions in missed productivity to economies. We can make this different because now we know that actually if we start from the data, if we start from technology, this is not going to work. So we need to start with the human. We need to understand human needs, and for the first time, we have actually a chance to enable humans, people, organizations to compete on a par. Because this is the real democratization of technology and tools, where we can finally have everyone potentially competing on a par and have, on-par opportunity for everyone. So positive, outlook on AI, but a bit more conscious. And I would invite, again, to read a lot and to really understand how this technology works. There is nothing to worry about in terms of risk, I think, and the benefits, that all of us are going to have in our lives. I think the simplest way to think of the benefit, I think it's freedom, Because you can think of dreams and building use cases, companies, products, whatever, that is going to be possible thanks to this humanization of technology. But freedom actually is the real goal here, because people are going to be free from technology. We got so much clutter in our lives in the past 20 years that, again, technology is at the heart of everything. It's not us anymore. And this is the opportunity to flip things around and make them right. Thank you very much, and I would like to get your questions now. There is a question here.
Nigel Lake from Pottinger. You talked about the importance of certifying knowledge, and like most people, I've used ChatGPT, and I've found that it is brilliant at creating a list of something. I went looking for a list of 12 books about India, including 3 about Nagaland, And it was a great list, but one of them was completely fabricated. Why is it that the people that have made these systems have not trained their engines on the notion of truth, which is not particularly a difficult thing to do?
That's a great question. The short answer is that these tools were not designed to be the next Google, or to be the next conversational system that is searching information and has some sort of logic behind how it works, which information is it surfacing first, because maybe you can trust it more. This was actually a lab experiment, which was open to the world to try it, and people just loved it also because what happened with AI in the past, The experiences we had with virtual assistants were so bad that when we saw something that was spitting out text and it felt like alien, it became viral. And this is why we are here today with Gen AI. So it was not designed to give the truth or to provide answers. It was designed to generate text. So all it is doing actually is matching your prompt with the text it has in memory in the model, which in this case is Wikipedia, 3 million books, and potentially all the websites we have visited, in the past 10 years. And it tries to connect those dots, and it builds that answer by just predicting the next word. So it's very dangerous if you actually use it to make decisions. Now it happens, and this is the most astonishing, I think, discovery with this technology, that it is so good, and maybe it is so good because as a human, as a society, we have reached, that level where we have standardized all the knowledge we have. So our knowledge is so standardized that a model that can predict the next word in a phrase or the next letter in a word can speak like us. And this is what, is called hallucination. Actually, it's not even correct to call it hallucination, because it's not that this system was designed to have logic and to reason, and then it is hallucinating because it is giving most of the answers correct, and then it is actually giving random stuff. It just happens that most of it is correct, which is scary if you think about the speed in which large organizations are actually introducing it in the workplace or in consumer products, and so on and so forth. Of course, if you give it a use case, and we're seeing some products, ours is one example, where this is just 10%. You have 90% of traditional technology that is taking care of, integrating the data, certifying the data, enabling you to have that knowledge certification and use case. I think this is going to be the future. So having these agents that are domain-specific and that can be specialized and bring just not the right answers, but also bring, additional value to the conversation. Hope that answers. Right, so we have another question here.
So yeah, it's understood how ChatGPT and the LLM models work, but you mentioned, numbers and sort of, I don't know whether that was in the context of generative AI or just generally using AI to access numbers and to, can you talk a little bit more about what you were referring to there?
Yes, so it's a generative AI use case because the generative AI, it's coming from the fact that you use a specific type of model, which is called a transformer-based model, a system that is able to tokenize and create vectors of the data you input, and then you actually are able to encode those vectors into this file, and then you can decode it based on the prompt. So you're just matching data, just to make it really, really simple. GPT for numbers for us means that we can actually take the numbers, so we can train exclusively with the existing data without putting any noise from the outside, transform those numbers into data sets. This can be statements, questions and answers examples, and then we can encode it into a model that will give you answers on questions you have about numbers. So this can be, maybe you ask information about performance, or maybe you want to know the CPI because it is connected also to a real-time system, or whatever, KPI and metric is provided through numbers. it is actually going to take only those numbers and not have any other data. And in addition to that, we have introduced advanced data science models in the loop that already exist, and a lot of companies have already spent a lot of money on these. So by combining this fact-checking system and by encoding only your data exclusively, we not just give you ownership, but we also make it possible for this system to be sustainable and safe. Because it's a smaller model, it's designed for that use case. It's not going to answer questions about the weather or about public information. Now we have a few minutes, so we'll take a couple more questions. So we have one here and then one on the left.
This is out of left field, but is there some intersection between blockchain and AI? Because this is overshadowing, it seems like, blockchain linked. But is there a way, for example, that your content that's out there, it's marked and verified some way with blockchain, and then the AI is accessing it? Any intersection there?
Absolutely, yes. So at scale, it will be the only solution we have today, unless we invent other stuff to make it safe when we interconnect these brains across organizations and across data sets. Today we use, for example, a concept we call the business knowledge graph. Think of it as a small blockchain system within the organization that is layering the language model. So every time the model, Crystal, and then if you're curious to try Crystal and see it, we have a booth outside. Every time it gives an answer, it actually fact checks against this knowledge graph. Now, we're using a knowledge graph because you own it. It's your data, so you don't need someone else to certify it. But when we will go at scale and we're going to have organizations having to trust each other, blockchain is the best option to that. So combining these language models with blockchain is actually potentially the solution to this knowledge certification challenge. So great point you've made. Thank you.
Great. So if you're going to certify this system, it would seem then you would license it, right? And so you'd create a whole new industry, and that people you'd have industry that would be dedicated to finance, that manufacturing, design, theater, what have you. Sounds like a fabulous business you're walking into. How do you propose to certify the AI? I mean, what AI is so trustworthy that you can take that AI to certify others, or where does the human being let the machine do the certification is what I'm trying to figure out here, because it would seem that you'd need AI to do the certification, because otherwise it would take human beings too long to certify it because of the depth and breadth of the information.
Great question. So it's true that you need AI to actually perform the certification, but we use it primarily to accelerate the integration with the data. The way it works is that you tell it, connect to, it can be it can be an API, it can be SAP, Salesforce, Power BI dashboards, it can be anything you have in terms of numbers and structured data. It understands what's in those tables and suggests you a way to certify it, but then the human, the expert, will actually confirm what that means. So this is from a process perspective. So you're using AI to cut integration time by 99%, so potentially you can have these systems up and running in hours instead of years of investment as it was supposed to be once. But what actually makes this special is the philosophy behind it. When we say human first, and this is working very well for confidential use cases in highly regulated environments, is that we intend to deliver the iPhone of this industry. So the product is being built by one single vendor. You pay a subscription, yes, but you own it. And all the data that is being produced, everything that you're doing with it, it's owned by you. It's not just private and not training other models, but if you decide, to close the relationship with iGenius in this case, you would own all of that metadata that was generating and part of the model that actually has your core IP. So you can very easily transfer that to potentially another system. Good. Hope these AI waves helped you to digest a bit. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and have a great continuation of the conference.